Hi guys, this is Devyn Jambga here. Currently playing professional soccer for Tormenta FC. Just gonna take you a little bit through my journey from Harare, Zimbabwe to Statesboro, Georgia. I'm currently in my third year playing professional soccer, so I'm happy to get on the page and let you guys know some of the things that I went through to get here. First of all, moved to Zimbabwe when I was 4 years old in the year 2000. I went to Harare International School, and as most people know, the school is quite small. So growing up there, I played a little bit of 11-a-side, but mostly I played 11-a-side at Sunday soccer, just like an open league, but the standard was still pretty good. I guess when I was younger and I used to watch soccer, obviously that feeling of scoring a goal looked huge, and that is something that drew me into the sport and gave me some passion for the sport. As I got older, it started to get harder. People started to get faster, more technical, cleaner, like on the ball and everything. So the speed of the game basically increased, and there was a long period in middle school between probably the age of maybe 10 and 14 that I really dropped behind some of my peers. And I remember this because I remember thinking, am I good enough to play professionally? How am I going to make it out of Zimbabwe to get an opportunity to go somewhere where I can play professionally? And I just kept working hard. Obviously, Coach Johnson was my coach for a little while. Daniel Baji was my coach for a little while. My father was my coach for pretty much my whole life. And he set a very high standard for me, similar to what Coach Johnson set for Israel. If you have someone who's knowledgeable around you and you're willing to learn, you're always going to have the upper hand on some other people. So when I was growing up, I just tried to play. I was playing with grown men from probably when I was 9 or 10, playing with them, them tackling me like a grown man and stuff like that. And I attribute a lot of my success to kind of playing up age groups and challenging yourself. If you're at the point where you're scoring several goals and it's easy for you, like you're dribbling by mannequins and stuff, that's not the level for you. You need to go higher up and start challenging yourself. I didn't really have that much exposure to 11-a-side football besides playing on Sundays, sometimes Saturdays at HIS. Our school never really had enough people that were willing to come out and play 11-a-side. Even the ICEA tournament, the tournament for the international schools, was 7-a-side. So going into my senior year, I had limited exposure to a big field like that, shooting on different size goals my whole life and such. So I would say one thing that helped me in that time period to adjust to playing the 11-a-side game was just getting out onto the field by myself. I used to watch a lot of YouTube. Everything is on YouTube. So whether that's different dribbling exercises, shooting exercises, fitness, strength, power, speed, all that stuff is available to you online, and I used to make use of it. I'd ask my dad to drive me to the field sometimes when school was closed or anything like that, and I used to put hours in when no one was watching, and also my brother used to help me out with that too. So then it came time where I was around 14, 15, 16 years old, and you start to see young players signing for big clubs in Europe. One that really opened my eyes was Raheem Sterling with Liverpool when he got his first team debut. He's slightly younger than me, and seeing him play for a team that I watched every week was craziness. I was like, wow, like that's somewhere where I want to be. but also I had to be realistic. He grew up in the academy system over there. I was working with what I could, so I said, you know what, let me see how far I can push myself and see where I end up. And that's always been the goal. Every day, have no regrets, work as hard as you can, work as smart as you can, and give yourself the opportunities to succeed. So I took advantage of an opportunity I think going into my junior year. So I was 15, almost 16, and I was visiting my mom's family in the United States, and there was a soccer camp that was put on by the college that my parents went to, SIUE. I went there. It was a 3-day camp, and for the most part you did maybe 2 training sessions, but there's a large group of players. They put you into random teams, and then you basically play 11 versus 11 for like maybe 20-minute halves. I can't remember the exact increments, but short times, to where if you're a player that's above the rest, you need to show that you are. I remember going there and thinking, like, this is my chance. And I remember my dad always used to tell me, like, he used to just say it's go time, meaning like it's not like there's no jokes about it. Like, this is the opportunity. He paid for me to get into the camp, and I didn't want to let him waste his money. So I got there. I've been playing as a forward for most of my life. Drifted off to the wing. I like to run a lot, so drifted off and ran the channels a lot as a forward. And in that camp, they played me as a winger for the first time, and I just tried taking on my guy. We won the whole time, and getting crosses in the box. Scored quite a few goals, and by the end of it, they told me that they didn't have any scholarship positions for me, because they hadn't seen me play that much. I'm from overseas, but they liked what they saw in the camp, so they were willing to offer me a roster spot for whenever I graduate high school. So for their 2013 season, they were willing to give me a roster spot. After that, I followed one of my buddies and one of my coach's sons who played at Boston University, Dominique Badji, who most people at HIS are familiar with, who's now playing in the MLS with Nashville. I followed him to Boston University to go for another camp. I think it was a couple of weeks after this one. So I was on a high note. I'm like, okay, I have one good Division I school interested in me. Let me go and see if I can get something else over here. Maybe they'll offer me scholarship. So I go there, and I didn't have a very good camp, to be honest. I didn't do things that I'm known to do. I didn't use my strengths during the camp. I just blended in with a bunch of other players. And at the end, they give you an evaluation, and at the bottom of the evaluation, it said that they thought that I would play low Division III, maybe Division II, or not play college at all, based on what I showed. Based on various coaches that were there from other collegiate schools. So that was kind of a heavy blow. So I said, I have one option. I'm going to SIUE, and I was a little overconfident going into that, and since then I haven't been overconfident again. I finished up my school at Harare International School, went over, and my first season I got there, and I was the worst player on the roster. And there was talks of them cutting me from the roster and all this. I redshirted, meaning that I trained but didn't play my first year. I was 17, so I tried to take it as I'm young, let me adjust to this style of football, which was more, it was more physical, more tactical, where back home I just felt like you put people on the field and you just let them play, and the people that are good enough and understand the game will figure things out. But there it's like, it's structured, it's like homework. You have to know different formations, know where you need to be on set pieces and all this stuff. So that was all new to me. I guess the biggest thing for me in college, I realized that if I still wanted to play professionally, I'm in the United States. I have the facilities. I have coaches around me that are willing to help. I have players around me that are better that I can learn from. So I just decided, let me find in my opinion, the best guy in my class. His name is Andrew, who's one of my best friends now. Let me surround myself with him, and this guy was crazy. Go to the field well before our training sessions. He would wake up at 5 a.m. and go do sand workouts to get more powerful, faster, fitter, because he wanted to play professionally as well. So I said, you know what? Let me follow this guy. Let me learn from him. And his saying was always, if you follow the crowd, you only get as far as the crowd. Meaning, if you just do what everyone else does, how do you expect to stick out? And to be a professional soccer player, you need to stick out amongst college soccer players. So I went with him, trained hard, and then that next spring, we were under new management. I got a chance to play a little bit, and I showed significant improvement. Went into my fall season, and finally got some playing time in the regular season. Didn't get any goals, any assists. I was more of an off-the-bench type of player, and I embraced my role and just tried to do damage while other players were tired. Ended up doing pretty well with that, and then the following season was my first breakthrough season. This is, I believe this is in 2016. Actually, no, 2015. I ended up getting 6 goals that year. I think I led my team in scoring that year and the following year. And ended up getting some big goals. Started to get Player of the Week for the conference. Started to build my resume and started going after these accolades. And I never really set a goal for the amount of goals that I wanted to get in a season until my senior year, and then I ended up doing worse than my sophomore and my junior year in terms of stats. I think I only got 3 goals and maybe 1 or 2 assists. So then I wanted to go pro. It was tough because there's guys that are scoring 15 to 20 goals, and here I am with 3, and I played as a forward. So as soon as I played my last game, I got in touch with an agent through my coach, a guy that had been reaching out to me on social media, and he decided to help me. I went to a couple of combines, which are basically they're basically like college soccer camps except for professional teams. So whenever the college season's over, they invite certain people. Mine was an invite only. The first one was to Charlotte Independence, which is in North Carolina. And I went there, and that's another team that Dominique had played for before. So I knew about them. I got out there, and the whole time I was thinking, this is my moment, and I put so much pressure on myself. I was like, just don't lose the ball. I would just pass it off. Don't lose the ball. Pass it off. I don't think I lost the ball that much during that trial, but I also didn't do anything as a winger. I didn't show them things that I was known for, like speed, 1v1 ability, crossing, like being like, I don't know, physical on the field. Like there's some wingers that are smaller and more technical, and I'm more of like a bigger presence on the field in that regard. So I didn't do any of that. So they didn't call me back for the final day. They only called back 2 teams full of the players that they thought that they would want to sign. So I got let go, had to fly back home, wait for the next opportunity. Went to the Midwest Combine, went there, and that time I was like, you know what, I need to turn it on now. And I started scoring goals in the 11-a-side scrimmages, started taking players on, getting crosses in left or right foot, which is still like one of my better attributes now. And then I got a trial from that with a team called the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. They invited me out for a combine there. I did well at the combine, and then they asked me to come back for their preseason. I then compiled a highlight tape with all my highlights from college and had certain people, my coach and other coaches that I had in college with PDL, which is a summer league and stuff, spread my highlight tape around and vouch for how I am as a player. So I didn't burn any bridges. I worked really hard, and everyone knew that. so they all had nice things to say, and these are people that are respected in the soccer community, so whenever they give a recommendation, they're listened to. I started to hear back from about 5 or 6 teams that wanted me in for preseason but weren't willing to give me a contract without it. So I had to basically pick from these 5 teams, which team do I think I can go to, do really well, and sign for to get my professional career started with. And if I went there and I got cut, that's probably it, because the season's starting and I'll have to wait till the next season. So the pressure was on. I ended up going to Portland for preseason, and they had about 20 guys out there with the second team, like right across the fence from the MLS team. And yeah, there was a lot of pressure, but at this point I've been on so many trials that now I just knew I need to show them what I'm good at. Take players on, get crosses in, get shots off, like show them that you're fast, show them that you can run like forever, show them things that you think of yourself that separate you from the pack. You need to go and do those things as fast as possible and as many times as you can. And I did those things, and every week we were staying in a hotel that they provided for us. Every week they would come through and tell us, okay, Devyn, you have your meeting at this time. After that is this guy. After that is this guy. And they'd literally bring you in and tell you, you're doing well. Unfortunately, we don't like you, or you're doing well. Like, we want to keep you for a little longer. See if you can sign here. This. And after the first week, I think they let go of 10 guys. And I went in there, and I didn't know what to think. They ended up saying that they wanted to keep me for a little bit. Went through another week of training. They did the same thing, kept me. Then it was down to me and 2 other guys. They ended up signing me and letting the other 2 guys go. And I think they signed a goalkeeper along the way too. So 2 out of 20-something guys ended up signing. So yeah, it was a lot of pressure, but I had a lot of relief once I signed my first contract with Timbers too, and I worked really hard for it, so I was relieved. But then after that, you have to shift your mindset to, I need to get in the starting 11. So we worked throughout preseason, played a lot of preseason matches. I did well. I got hurt for a week or so and had to re-earn the starting position, and then I ended up starting. Like, my debut was made against their rivals, Sounders second team. I ended up playing, I think I played the full 90 that game, and went into the next couple games starting as well, but I didn't have that much of an impact. And then eventually they signed another guy who ended up putting me on the bench for the whole rest of the season. And then the tricky part came at the end of the season when they're talking about contracts, and we're still training a bit, and they're trying to see who they want to keep. And they told me that they think that I could play for them the following year, and they wanted to keep me. I told them like, yes, I want to stay here. Obviously, a lot of first team guys drop down from the MLS side to get minutes with us, which makes it hard to compete for positions. But I'm competitive, and like I want to compete for those positions. And then I made it was a pretty big mistake. I went in there, I didn't really talk to my agent about what I should do and stuff, and I just told him that I needed more money so that I could, because the price of living in Portland was super high, so I needed more of like a housing stipend, which is an allotment of money that they give you specific to like your housing, your utilities, your internet bill and stuff like that. And they basically told me like, why do you think you deserve that if you didn't play that much this year? And I told them, well, if you think that I'm going to be good for you in the future, like, this should be like an investment for you. I don't want to have to work on the side and all this. And eventually they let me go because of that, because I think I offended them by saying that, it was a mistake on my part. And then that next off season, I didn't have a team, so I drove from Portland all the way back to stay with my sister, and that whole off season I was just working on everything that I knew I needed to get better at, waiting for my next opportunity. And then went on trial with a team that wanted me the year before, and they kept me. It was in Pittsburgh. They kept me out there for 3 weeks, and then right before the season started, they released me as well. So now I'm scurrying. I have 6 days until the home. Like most teams play their first game, and that's usually when the roster is pretty much like it's set. So I reached out to some of my friends. They told me that their teams could use players like me. One of my college friends was playing in Tucson, Arizona, and told me that the setup's good here, like you'd really do well out here. So I spoke to the head coach there, flew out there, went on another trial. Their season started a little bit later, like 2 weeks. So went out there, had a couple preseason games, did well, ended up signing there. And last year was my best year that I've had as a pro in USL League One, which is third tier in the United States. I started off really, really well, had 5 goals at like the midway point of the season, and I think 3 assists or something like that. And then after that, I started to cool off and plateau a little bit. I was trying to get more goals, but it wasn't happening, and I knew I needed more to guarantee a contract somewhere else for the following year, so I was starting to stress out. All in all, it was a good year for me, but could have been better. But it was good enough last year to get me to where I am now, which is Tormenta, which is a team in South Georgia. They did really well last year. We're leading the table for a long time, and they noticed me come off the bench twice against them and one time starting against them, and said that they think that they can help me get better so that I can get to the next level, because they don't see me resting at this level. They want to develop me while I'm still semi-young. I'm 24, turning 25 this year, and see if they can push me up to USL Championship or even higher. And I liked their philosophy. I liked where they saw me playing on their field. I liked their system. I liked their coach. I liked their facilities. So now basically I'm here trying to do the same thing that I've done every year, prove my worth, establish some credibility, earn the starting position on the team, and then once I'm there, keep it and try to get as like the best stats that I can get this year, and hopefully move up and take my career in like a positive trajectory. So that's pretty much the summary of my whole career up until this point. I'm still hopeful that I'll continue playing soccer and that I'll start to get more opportunities. But if there's one takeaway from this is it doesn't matter where you grew up. Just make sure that you use all the resources available to you and work as hard as you can and work as smart as you can. If you don't know that much about football and you don't know that much about tactics and all this, look online. Ask someone that you know has been around the game for a long time. If anyone that watches this video wants to reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook, anything like that, I'll be happy to send you some of the stuff that I do, or give you any advice or recommendations about how you can take your career to the next level. So basically, thank you to Alan Johnson for having me on here. He's one of my favorite people, and I'm happy to have been on his page and get to speak to you guys for a little bit. So thank you for having me.